Who would have imagined that a bacterium that starts out in the mouth could trigger colon cancer, or that fecal bacteria in the small intestine could cause eczema or rosacea, or that losing certain good bacteria could deplete our love hormone, oxytocin, which brings feelings of positivity, empathy, and connectedness to others? Well, few would imagine these things if not for the mounting revelation of how the good bacteria, the bad bacteria dwelling within, and every microbe in between affects our health. Dr. William Davis' first clue to this came through his heart patients and the dramatic results they saw from basic diet changes. This triggered his sharp shift in focus toward gut health, embodied in his new book, Supergut. How does the emergence of fecal microbes in the small intestine, where they don't belong, lead to a diversity of diseases spanning depression, irritable bowel syndrome, and skin rashes? And what yogurt-like recipe has the targeted good bacteria to restore order and health to the gut and the body whole?
So causing dementia. One is this. So many of us have been overexposed to antibiotics and things that have disruptive effects on the gastrointestinal microbiome, like glyphosate, the herbicide Roundup, or stomach acid blocking drugs, or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or chlorinated drinking water, or preservatives in food, and many other things have disrupted the gastrointestinal microbiome. Net result, we've lost literally hundreds of beneficial species in the colon. When that happens, it allows the overproliferation of fecal microbes. These are microbes like E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter, which might ring familiar because they're also the microbes of food poisoning. When that kid flipping burgers at the fast food joint touches your food after not washing his hands after using the bathroom, you can get food poisoning from the same microbes. Point being, fecal microbes are not well tolerated outside of the colon, the most distal 4 to 5 feet of your gastrointestinal tract. So loss of many beneficial species in the colon, this has allowed the overproliferation of those fecal microbes that now have ascended into the 24 feet of small intestine in 1 out of 2 every American. So we're talking about 150 to 160 million plus people have this very peculiar issue of, we call it small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, fecal microbes proliferating in the small intestine. Well, when they do that, the small intestine is poorly equipped to manage fecal microbes, trillions of them. They only live for a few hours. So there's enormous, rapid turnover of fecal microbes in the 24 feet of small intestine. They die, and they release their toxic compounds, such as endotoxin, that enters the bloodstream because that small intestine, very poorly protected, is also very permeable. That's where we absorb nutrients like vitamins, minerals. So this endotoxin penetrates into the bloodstream. That's called endotoxemia. And we now know with good evidence, it's the driving factor in hundreds of health conditions. And one of the effects is that it inflames the brain. It causes so-called type 3 diabetes or insulin resistance in the brain, and is all highly toxic to the brain. It actually causes atrophy of various brain parts of your brain, like the hippocampus, one of the major parts of the brain affected with dementia. Another probable route.
The small intestine, is this caused by the gut not ridding itself of fecal matter to the degree that it's supposed to? Is that the reason behind this?
No, it's more due to the loss of beneficial microbes that were suppressing the ascendance of those fecal microbes from the colon. So, for instance, there are species like one of my favorite microbes, Lactobacillus reuteri, reuteri, named after the German microbiologist who discovered this interesting microbe in a breastfeeding German woman in 1962. In his 40-year academic career, at the beginning, he could find this in breast milk, stool, other places. As his career carried on, he couldn't find it anymore. And that has proven true in other studies. We've lost this very important species, Lactobacillus reuteri, and other species like Lactobacillus gasseri. Why is that important? Because these are species that are unique in that they colonize the small intestine. That's where this ascending infestation of fecal microbes occurs. So we've lost microbes that colonize the small intestine, and we've lost microbes that produce what are called bacteriocins. These are natural antibiotics effective in killing fecal microbes. So there's enormous rapid turnover of.
To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/Fallon. /vital signs.